I take a shit ton of notes. I mean thousands of words, maybe even above 10,000. And it can take me sometimes weeks of effort to finish just one book. I learn a lot, but it can get tedious. And if you're a completionist like me, then you might share that mentality. The feeling that you have to write notes on absolutely everything, otherwise it's a waste of time. You might even know it too. I was painfully aware of this problem and that it was becoming borderline problematic. And even then I found it hard to stop. It was almost addictive. And that comes from the fear of writing too few notes, I think. So where do you put yourself in all this chaos? Where do you find that balance? Enough notes to feel satisfied that you're learning something, but not so many that you become stressed and, of course, bored with all this effort in front of you. I've seen both dirty sides of this spectrum, and I want to share how I approach it, so that if you have the same issue, you can hopefully find something useful. This first idea is the base of everything to come, and without it, nothing else really matters. You are not a slave to books. It's the other way around. They serve you. And it's up to you to decide what in the book you should focus on versus what doesn't matter as much. And it might sound obvious to you. It's like, yeah, no shit, but not everyone sees that. And I know I didn't for many months, many years even. A few months ago, I read On Writing Well by William Zinsser. And this is a guide on writing well. Shocker, I know. And he gave great advice on how you can improve your writing style across many different areas. Some of which I practiced, some of which I didn't really care about and didn't plan on doing. For example, he talked about travel writing, how to make your account of the place unique and memorable, and not like some crappy AI-generated travel brochure. I was marking this chapter like crazy because a lot of this stuff was new to me. But that energy faded fast and I looked down and I realized, why am I doing this? Why am I pouring so much energy in? I'm not a travel writer. I don't plan to start it anytime soon, and it's not something that particularly interests me. So what am I doing? Why am I picking up all of these insights if they don't align with my goals, my original purpose in picking up the book? One reason is that the author finds everything interesting. And I mean, of course they do, it's their book. But because of that passion that they have, it makes you feel as if you also have to share that feeling with them. And therefore you write everything because it seems important to you. Now that's not true, because you decide what matters to you in the text. And a big part of that is being able to gloss over some of the less important ideas. And trust me, I know it can feel wrong. It can feel like sacrilege almost. But when it comes to your limited, pool of energy, you may have to make those sacrifices in one area so that you can focus on the parts that truly excite you. And by no means am I saying to skip those parts completely. Like I couldn't do that myself. It feels wrong. But the point is to be independent and understand what excites you rather than what the author feels you should be excited by. Okay, but there's still a problem. I say write notes on what matters, but how do you know what that means? Like how do you know if it matters versus if it's some side point that you'll just forget later on? That in itself is the fear that explains why so many of us like to take so many notes. We're afraid of losing things and we want to cast a wide net almost so that there's less chance of that happening. I have a few tips that have helped me answer this question, and you'll see that some of the advice contradicts itself because it's not a one-size-fits-all. The first point has you rely on instinct to choose what to write notes on. Sometimes you're reading along as usual, and you reach a sentence that almost slaps you in the face. You sit up straight, you kind of wake up a bit, oh shit, the author's kind of cooking here. And you underline it, of course, you put the star, the index tab, all of these things. Hold on to that feeling, because it's your mind literally telling you what it finds exciting, as opposed to something that's a bit less interesting, you're a bit lukewarm. Oh, okay, maybe I'll write a note on that, cool. For example, I'm still reading A Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold, and I know it's been a while, still on it, but I underline a lot in that because it's full of good ideas. But every so often, he just hits you with this beautiful piece of prose where he gets this big idea and condenses it into a very punchy sentence that sends the message home. And again, it's the type that stops you in your tracks and makes you think. And that is what I value above all else in my notes because it's what truly resonates and sticks with me. So if you write too many notes and you're trying to cut down, maybe try to prioritize those ideas that give you that emotional response and then cut down on the rest, which are typically less groundbreaking for you. I'm speaking very generally here, and there are exceptions to this. A big one will be technical details that are kind of important to know for the rest of the book, even though they're not the most exciting. Maybe like a term at the beginning of a philosophy book. It's not flashy, but you have to know it, so take notes on it. All of these techniques sound good in theory, but is that enough? I mean, I've known for years that I take too many notes. I'm not stupid, I'm not fooling myself there, but it's still hard to change my behavior. We know we should train in the gym, we know we should eat clean, but when it comes to actually doing that, is a different story. It's harder. So then the question is, how can we train our minds to be more selective in our notes and make it an actual habit, a concrete habit in our everyday life? The answer could be to take the choice out of your hands, or at least most of it. You're probably familiar with that classic chocolate experiment. If I gave you a selection box of 1,000 different chocolates, you'd have a hard time picking because the choices are overwhelming. And when you do finally pick something, you might be disappointed because there's probably something better you could have picked. But then if I remove 99% of them, that's still a lot actually. If I give you 5 chocolates, you're going to be obviously more satisfied with the final result because there wasn't much else to choose from and you're confident you made the right decision. We're doing something similar here with what I call note quotas. This is when you limit yourself to a certain number of notes per chapter or page, let's say. For example, you might underline loads of different ideas in a chapter, but because of your note quota, you can only do more formal write-ups of 5 of those ideas. This forces you to be selective and to focus on only the best insights in that chapter. At first, I was afraid of this because it felt wrong to skip stuff, but then I realized you can always return to them. There's no need to worry. The book won't grow legs and run away. And the way I see literature now is as a long-term project where you can keep coming back to it, keep rereading, and keep adding to your notes that exist elsewhere, in your notebook, in Obsidian, whatever. So before I do a total 180 on you with the last point, which I promise will make sense, I'd like to talk about a relatively more straightforward and structured way to learn. It's Brilliant, who are sponsoring this video. Brilliant is chock full of interactive lessons that help guide you through some pretty complicated topics, even as a beginner. You can confidently learn maths, programming, data analysis, and a whole range of other STEM-oriented fields. There's something for everyone. Every lesson gets you stuck into the ideas with hands-on activities, which is not only fun, but more effective for your learning compared to, say, just passively watching a lecture. The activities involve you in the learning, which helps you improve your critical thinking, your problem solving, and overall, it helps you keep an active mind, which I always say is probably the most important thing in all reading and learning in general. For example, I'm kind of clueless on data science and analysis, so it's nice to see there's plenty of classes on it here on Brilliant. I like that they use real-life data sets in their examples, like say from Spotify and Starbucks, and that gives you this really familiar context to understand the ideas from. To try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for 30 days, you can go to brilliant.org/Odysseus. And you can also click the top link of the description or even scan the QR code on screen. And with those, you'll also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription. So do check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. So far in this video, I've been talking of writing too many notes as a bad thing. But is that even true in the first place? Do you actually have to take action against it anyway? Well, let's first look at the cons. Writing too many notes is slow as shit. It might make you mix up irrelevant details with the stuff that matters. And above all, it can get kind of boring. But what's the benefit? Well, if you write too many notes, then you squeeze out more insight from the book. I mean, I can't be so dogmatic as to say that one side is better than the other. It just depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. Sometimes a book is genuinely worth it. Sometimes it is packed with wisdom on every page and you feel like you don't want to let this chance go to waste. I still do that sometimes. If I feel like an idea deserves it, I'm going to write about it. And I don't care if that's 10 or 100 or 1,000. Perhaps like me, you like the grindy element of completionism. Yes, it takes ages and it can be slow sometimes, but you write those thousands of words and you feel accomplished at the end of it. It's not always fun in the shallow sense, but to me, reading is bigger than that. And it's okay to struggle sometimes. I don't know you and I don't know how you approach books. So I just wanted to end this video with the idea that there's no wrong way to approach this. It's just something you should consider and something you should have the independence to decide on for yourself. And since I'm wrapping things up, and as usual, I forget to mention I have a newsletter. There you go. I have a newsletter. It's linked in the description. There's insights on reading, on writing, and overall making a creative life that you can be happy with and proud of. I don't spam there. If anything, I write too little. So I'd really appreciate if you signed up. It's totally free, and I think you'll find some valuable insights there. So I'll see you there. And of course, thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate it.